Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is my channel Sherelle Thinks, where I talk about everything health, anxiety related. So first and foremost, I just want to say happy International Women's Day. There's so many amazing women around the world, and there's lots of us battling anxiety whilst looking after small children, so we're amazing. So in this video I want to talk about my top 5 worst anxiety symptoms, and I know this is very like clickbaity, but I do think that this video will be quite maybe helpful to other people. And I really sat here before I did this video, I really thought about it because I've had so many symptoms over the years, and I was like, what is my top 5 worst ones? Which ones bother me the most? And this is the list that I've come up with. So number 1 is brain fog. It is by far my worst anxiety symptom, and I get really I find it hard to describe what I mean by brain fog, and when you read about it on Google, it sort of says different things, but what I personally mean by brain fog is the feeling like I'm not there. So I suppose it's dissociation, but I have this weird fogginess where I feel like I can't remember things. I feel like I'm not here. I feel like people who, my loved ones, are like alien to me. I feel just completely out of it, as though I'm on drugs or something. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. I feel like I'm losing control. And when I'm in that mindset, I feel like I'm going to sort of be stuck that way forever. And I just find it really, really terrifying. It's definitely my worst symptom. It's one that I get and I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. My dad, he also gets brain fog really badly, and I can tell when he has it because I can just see this, his face just looks different. It's just something about him, and we always say, we're always like, oh, I've got the brain fog again, you know. And luckily for me, I've never had brain fog kind of like long term. It's always been just kind of a couple of days, and I know it always passes, and that's the only way I get through is I'm like, Sherelle, it will pass, like, you've had this before lots of times. So that's definitely my worst one. Number 2 for me is, I'm going to put this under the bracket of like neurological symptoms. What I mean is like twitching, tingling, numbness, myoclonic jerks. Those are terrifying. And obviously most people will know that I've been down the ALS rabbit hole. I've actually been down it twice. Lots of us are scared of twitching purely because of what Google says. It's not nice to feel like your body is malfunctioning. It's scary. Google will tell you not only, you know, ALS, but other neurological diseases that can cause it. So of course we go into panic mode, and the more we think about the twitches, the worse they get. We start to focus on where they are. You know, I was having them, I remember thinking to myself, right, as long as I don't ever get them in my tongue, I'll be able to cope with them. And lo and behold, a week later, my tongue started twitching. So it just goes to show the more attention that we give them, the worse these things get. Also, you know, tingling. I've had like my whole face tingle for like a month. I've had numbness in my limbs. The myoclonic jerks was horrendous for me. I was having them like at night time. My whole body was literally jerking. It was absolutely horrendous, and I know that many people feel the same way, that they're just awful. And you know, the only way we can get those symptoms to stop is by lessening our anxiety, but it's very difficult to do that when we're twitching, tingling and jerking from head to toe. So that's definitely my second on the list. Number 3 for me is heart palpitations. I mean, nobody likes to feel like there's something funky going on with their heart. It's a horrible feeling. It just makes you panic. And yeah, I mean, I've always had palpitations from a young age, but it was only when I developed health anxiety that I kind of remember thinking, oh, I wonder what the other symptoms are of like something, you know, a heart problem. And then of course, when I read all the other symptoms and started to get those. So that's when palpitations actually started to scare me. And yeah, I mean, I've had palpitations just that are so bad that it's all day long. It takes my breath away. It's like I can't focus on anything else when they're happening. I just feel like I want to lay down and just curl up in a ball. Palpitations, scare the crap out of me. I'm getting much better. I just try and ignore them now the best I can, and now that my anxiety levels are pretty low, I don't get them very often at all, but they happen occasionally. But I really do have to talk myself down, because they still make me think, but what if there's something wrong with my heart? And yeah, I know many people have kind of like heart related anxiety that will, you know, very much feel the same. Number 4 is insomnia. Guys, insomnia is rough. Like, I had never had insomnia, and, you know, although I kind of recognised that not being able to sleep would be terrible, it was only when I actually had insomnia, because my anxiety got so bad, I was so mentally unwell that I just could not sleep, and I had insomnia for about a month, and, you know, I was probably getting maximum 4 hours a night. And it was awful. Insomnia was awful, because it made all of my other symptoms worse. So it was like a vicious cycle. My anxiety was preventing me from sleeping, but because I wasn't sleeping, it was making all of my other symptoms 10 times worse. So I was like, oh my gosh, insomnia is terrible. It's this awful, awful cycle that you just can't get out of. And it's like, it's really hard to either, you know, fix your anxiety and fix your insomnia, but you have to do one or the other, because that's the only way to get out of it. So insomnia was rough. I think that was probably one of the darkest times of my life, when I stopped sleeping. I started to hallucinate as well, because I wasn't sleeping anymore. It was just rough. Like, my heart goes out to people that have to deal with insomnia. I'm so pleased that I managed to get myself out of it, but it was absolutely horrific. So that brings us on to number 5, and number 5 is digestive issues. My gut just goes crazy when I'm anxious. We all know now that there's a strong connection between the brain and the digestive system, and this is why a lot of people, you know, when they're anxious, they have to like run to the toilet if they're going to do an interview. It's kind of like a well-known, documented thing. But when you have like long-term anxiety, it can really, really wreak havoc on your digestive system. And so for me, I started to develop sort of IBS like symptoms, I'd say about 3 months ago. And it's strange, because I've actually been really, really good for probably about 8-9 months. But I think just the long-term chronic anxiety that I was dealing with for so long, it's kind of coming out a bit later on me now. And, you know, there's nothing worse than having my camera keeps stopping for some reason, and it's very annoying. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by my phone, that when your stomach is grumbling constantly, you've got stomach pain, you have a change in bowel habits, so maybe you're suddenly really constipated and you can't go to the toilet, which is going to cause bloating and all of these kind of issues. Or maybe you've developed kind of diarrhea where you have like an urgency to go to the toilet. I've had it all, and it's awful. And then of course then you end up thinking that, you know, your digestive system problems is because of something more sinister, and you start reading about bowel cancer, and it's awful. It's an awful, awful thing. It makes you feel like you can't leave the house. It makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you feel that you have to be near a toilet all the time. And it's just so unpredictable. You don't know, like, for example, with me, I could have like a bout of like just constipation, and then a week later I'm having like really loose stools, and I feel like I need to urgently go. So that is definitely made it onto my list, just because of the inconvenience that it has. I've kind of got over the fact of like worrying that it's something else. I now have accepted that it's IBS. I kind of know that, well, years of anxiety has kind of done this, and it's a really frustrating thing to have to deal with, you know. Because people throw out like, oh, I have IBS, but I think people who truly have IBS, it's a really, really awful thing. Like, it's horrible to not know what's going on with your gut, and like you don't know how to control it. So yeah, those are definitely my top 5. So brain fog, neurological symptoms, palpitations, insomnia, and digestive system issues. Those are definitely my top 5 worst anxiety symptoms. So I'd love for you to, below in the comments, for you to tell us all what yours are. I know that everybody's going to be slightly different. You know, some people get really freaked out over, you know, different things that maybe doesn't affect other people. So it'd be really great to hear your own personal experience of your worst symptoms. Hope this video was helpful. If you would like to book in a session with me, a health anxiety chat session, I will put the link to my book assistant below. You can find me on Instagram at Sherelle Thinks, and I also have a health anxiety support group on Facebook. If you just type in health anxiety community, you should find us. There's about 2,000 of us, and it's a really lovely group where you can just speak to like-minded individuals. Anyway guys, I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.